Michael Carter was proud of the life he had built with his wife, Amanda. After 10 years of marriage, they had a comfortable home, 2 young children, and what seemed like a partnership rooted in love and trust. But everything changed one quiet evening when Michael stumbled upon a series of messages on Amanda's tablet. The messages weren't meant for him. Michael had been looking for the grocery list Amanda said she'd written on her device, but instead, he found a conversation with someone named Andrew. Amanda, I can't stop thinking about last night. It was incredible. Andrew, you're amazing. Can't wait to see you again. Michael's heart pounded as he scrolled further, his disbelief giving way to rage. The messages painted a vivid picture of an affair. Late-night rendezvous, stolen kisses, and whispered promises. Amanda's ambition. Confronting Amanda wasn't Michael's first instinct. Instead, he decided to watch and wait, gathering more evidence before making his move. Amanda had recently begun working at a prestigious marketing firm, claiming it was her dream job and the key to building a brighter future for their family. She had been coming home later, often claiming she was networking with influential colleagues or working late to meet deadlines. I just want to make something of myself, Amanda had said more than once. Michael had always supported her career ambitions, even taking on more parenting duties to allow Amanda to pursue her dreams. But now, he wondered if her so-called ambitions were just a cover for her betrayal. Michael's suspicion grows. Over the next few weeks, Michael monitored Amanda's behavior closely. He noticed how often she checked her phone, how she always seemed to smile at notifications she quickly dismissed, and how distant she had become during their conversations. One night, while Amanda was in the shower, Michael unlocked her phone using a passcode he had memorized. The incriminating messages were all there, along with photos of Amanda and Andrew at what appeared to be a hotel. Michael's chest tightened as he realized the extent of her deception. Amanda wasn't just betraying him. She was risking everything they had built together. The breaking point. The breaking point came during a dinner party Amanda hosted for her colleagues. Michael had been skeptical about the gathering but decided to play along, hoping to observe Amanda's interactions. Among the guests was Andrew, a charming and confident man who seemed to gravitate toward Amanda throughout the evening. Michael watched from across the room as Amanda laughed a little too loudly at Andrew's jokes and leaned in a little too closely during their conversations. After the guests left, Michael confronted Amanda. "Who is Andrew?" he asked, his voice cold. Amanda froze, her smile faltering. "He's a colleague. Why are you asking?" "Don't lie to me, Amanda," Michael said, his voice rising. "I've seen the messages. I know what's been going on." Amanda's face drained of color. "Michael, I can explain." "No," Michael interrupted. "You can't explain this. You've been lying to me for months, and now I know the truth." Amanda began to cry, but Michael walked away, his heart filled with anger and betrayal. The web of lies. Amanda Carter sat alone in the living room, staring blankly at the remnants of the dinner party. The laughter and clinking glasses that had filled the room hours earlier were now replaced by silence and the weight of her husband's accusations. Her mind raced. He knows. What do I do now? Amanda's affair with Andrew had begun innocently, or so she had told herself. He was charming, attentive, and everything she felt Michael hadn't been in recent years. Their conversations about work and ambition turned into late-night texts, and soon, stolen moments during business trips became the norm. She convinced herself that it was temporary, that she could stop anytime. But now the fantasy had collided with reality, and her world was beginning to crumble. Michael's investigation. Michael wasn't the type to act impulsively. Instead, he channeled his rage into uncovering the full extent of Amanda's betrayal. He began with her phone, meticulously downloading the incriminating photos and messages to a hidden drive. He checked their shared credit card statements, noting charges for lavish dinners and hotel stays that Amanda had never mentioned. Michael even followed Amanda one evening when she claimed to be working late. His suspicions were confirmed when he saw her meeting Andrew at a bar downtown, their heads close together as they shared a bottle of wine. "She's risking everything for this?" Michael muttered to himself, gripping the steering wheel as he watched them through the windshield. Amanda's excuses. When Michael confronted Amanda again, she attempted to explain. "It wasn't supposed to mean anything," she said, tears streaming down her face. Andrew was just, I don't know. He made me feel alive again. Michael's laughter was cold and bitter. Alive? Is that what you call sneaking around behind my back? While I've been here, raising our kids and supporting your career, you've been out playing house with him. It wasn't like that, Amanda insisted. I never meant to hurt you. But you did, Michael said sharply. And now, I don't know if I can ever look at you the same way again. Michael decided to confront Andrew directly. He showed up at Andrew's office one afternoon, catching him off guard. You're Michael, aren't you? Andrew said, his confident demeanor faltering under Michael's glare. That's right, Michael replied. And I'm here to tell you to stay the hell away from my wife. Andrew raised his hands defensively. Look, I didn't mean for any of this to happen. Amanda said things weren't working out between you two. Michael's fury boiled over. Don't you dare try to justify this. You knew she was married, and you went after her anyway. Andrew stammered, clearly unnerved. I'll back off. I swear. You'd better, Michael growled, stepping closer. Because if I find out you've so much as texted her again, you'll regret it. Amanda's career stalls. The affair wasn't Amanda's only deception. She had also exaggerated her success at work to justify the long hours and frequent trips. In truth, she was struggling to make a name for herself in the cutthroat world of marketing, and her performance reviews reflected it. When Michael discovered an email from her boss criticizing her lack of focus and missed deadlines, his anger deepened. So this is what you've been doing while I've been holding everything together? Michael said, holding up the email during another argument. Amanda looked away, ashamed. I didn't want you to know. I wanted to prove I could succeed. At what cost? Michael demanded. You've lied to me, neglected our family, and thrown away everything we had. For what? A fantasy? Amanda broke down, unable to answer. Michael realized that simply exposing Amanda's affair wasn't enough. He wanted her to feel the same betrayal and humiliation she had inflicted on him. He began formulating a plan, a way to dismantle the life Amanda had built on lies and force her to confront the consequences of her actions. Michael Carter's rage simmered just beneath the surface as he worked to execute his plan. He wasn't content to simply end his marriage or expose Amanda's betrayal to their close friends. He wanted to unravel everything she had built on a foundation of lies. Amanda's affair with Andrew had been the final betrayal, but her career ambitions and constant deceptions were what stoked Michael's desire for revenge. Exposing the affair. Michael began by gathering all the evidence he had collected. The photos, the messages, the hotel receipts, and the damning credit card charges. He compiled everything into a neatly organized folder labeled Amanda's Truth. On a Saturday morning, Michael invited Amanda's parents over to their house under the pretense of discussing their upcoming family vacation. Amanda, oblivious to Michael's true intentions, greeted her parents warmly. Once everyone was seated in the living room, Michael stood, folder in hand. I thought it was time we had an honest conversation about Amanda, he began, his tone cold. Amanda's smile faltered. Michael, what are you doing? I'm showing your parents who you really are, Michael replied, tossing the folder onto the coffee table. Amanda's father opened the folder, his face darkening as he scanned the contents. Her mother gasped, covering her mouth with her hand. Is this true, Amanda? Her father demanded. Amanda burst into tears. It's not what it looks like. It looks like you've been cheating on your husband and neglecting your family, her father said sharply. Michael watched in satisfaction as Amanda's carefully constructed image crumbled before their eyes, ruining her career. Michael's next target was Amanda's job. Using the same folder of evidence, he anonymously sent an email to her supervisor and HR department, attaching the incriminating materials and highlighting her lack of professionalism. Within days, Amanda was called into a meeting with her boss. We've been made aware of some troubling personal matters that could reflect poorly on the company, her boss said, sliding the folder across the desk. Amanda's face flushed with humiliation. This is personal. It has nothing to do with my work. Your performance has already been under review, her boss replied. This situation only adds to our concerns. We're terminating your employment effective immediately. Amanda left the office in tears, her career in ruins. A public humiliation. Michael wasn't finished. He decided to make Amanda's betrayal public knowledge. At their neighborhood's annual block party, Michael made sure everyone knew what she had done. As the evening progressed, Michael began casually sharing the story with their neighbors. By the end of the night, Amanda was the subject of hushed whispers and disapproving glances. Amanda approached Michael, her face pale with anger and embarrassment. "Why are you doing this?" she demanded. Michael stared at her coldly. "Because you deserve it." With her career destroyed and her reputation in tatters, Amanda found herself increasingly isolated. Friends who had once supported her turned away, unwilling to be associated with the scandal. Even her parents, who had been her staunchest allies, expressed their disappointment. "We raised you better than this, Amanda," her mother said during a tense phone call. "I made a mistake," Amanda sobbed. "You made a choice," her father corrected. "And now you're paying the price." The children's confusion. Ella and Max struggled to understand the changes in their family dynamic. They noticed how often their mother cried and how distant their father had become. "Why is Mommy so sad?" Max asked one evening. Michael forced a smile. "She's going through a tough time, buddy. But don't worry, I'll take care of everything." Though he tried to shield them from the worst of it, Michael couldn't ignore the toll his revenge was taking on their children. One night, Amanda confronted Michael in the kitchen, her face pale and tear-streaked. "Michael, please," she begged. "I've lost everything. I know I hurt you, but I can't take this anymore." Michael turned to her, his expression hard. "You think this is hard? Imagine how I felt when I found out the woman I loved was lying to me every day." "I was wrong," Amanda said, her voice trembling. "But this isn't fair. You're tearing our family apart." "You already tore it apart," Michael replied coldly. Amanda's world was unrecognizable. Her career, once her greatest ambition, was gone. Her reputation in the neighborhood was ruined, and even her own family had turned their backs on her. The home she once shared with Michael and their children felt suffocating, the walls echoing with tension and unspoken words. She had made mistakes, terrible ones, but the weight of Michael's revenge was more than she could bear. A mother's desperation. One evening, as Amanda tucked Ella and Max into bed, she couldn't hold back her tears. Ella, always perceptive, noticed. "Mommy, why are you crying?" Ella asked softly. Amanda forced a smile. "I'm just tired, sweetheart. It's been a hard day." "Is Daddy mad at you?" Ella pressed. Amanda's chest tightened. "Daddy and I are working through some things, but we both love you very much. That will never change." Ella nodded, but her eyes were filled with worry. Michael's increasing bitterness. Michael, too, was struggling. While he had succeeded in exacting revenge on Amanda, the satisfaction he once felt was beginning to fade. In its place was a hollow emptiness that no amount of retribution could fill. He spent his nights alone, replaying the events in his mind. The love they had shared, the family they had built, it was all gone, and he wasn't sure if he could ever feel whole again. Marcus, his closest friend, confronted him during a rare night out. "You've made your point, Michael," Marcus said. "Amanda's life is in shambles. What are you trying to prove now?" Michael took a long sip of his drink. "I don't know. I just can't let it go." "Maybe it's time you did," Marcus said. "For your own sake, and for the kids." Amanda's attempt at reconciliation. Amanda, encouraged by her therapist, decided to try one last time to reach Michael. She approached him one evening as he sat in the living room, staring blankly at the television. "Michael," she began hesitantly, "I know I've hurt you more than I can ever say, and I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I'm begging you, for the sake of our kids, can we find a way to move forward?" Michael turned to her, his expression cold. "Move forward? After everything you've done?" "I've lost everything, Michael," Amanda said, tears streaming down her face. "I know I deserve some of it, but the kids don't. They need us." Michael's jaw tightened. "You should have thought about that before you threw our family away." The tension reached its peak during a heated argument late one night. "You've ruined everything, Amanda," Michael shouted. "Our marriage, our family, everything we worked for. And you think what you're doing is any better?" Amanda shot back, her voice trembling. "You've destroyed me, Michael. You've made sure I have nothing left. That's what you deserve, Michael said coldly. Amanda broke down, collapsing onto the floor. I can't do this anymore, she sobbed. I've tried to fix it, but you won't let me. Please, Michael, stop. But Michael turned and walked away, leaving her alone with her tears. Ella and Max suffer. The children, caught in the crossfire, began to show signs of the emotional strain. Ella's grades dropped, and Max became withdrawn. During a parent-teacher conference, Ella's teacher expressed concern. She seems distracted and upset, the teacher said. Is everything okay at home? Michael forced a smile. We're going through some changes, but we'll make sure she gets the support she needs. But later that night, as he watched Ella and Max sleeping, Michael felt a pang of guilt. His revenge had come at a cost he hadn't anticipated. Amanda hits rock bottom. Amanda's despair deepened. She spent her days applying for jobs, only to be met with rejection after rejection. The shame of her public humiliation followed her everywhere, and she found herself sinking into depression. One afternoon, Rachel, her sister, visited unannounced. You look awful, Rachel said, concern etched on her face. I feel awful, Amanda admitted. Rachel placed a hand on her shoulder. You need to take care of yourself, Amanda. For the kids, if nothing else. Amanda nodded, though she wasn't sure where to start. Michael and Amanda Carter's marriage was no longer a partnership but a battlefield. Their once loving home had turned into a war zone of cold silences, bitter arguments, and shattered trust. Their children, Ella and Max, bore the invisible wounds of their parents' ongoing conflict, and the toll on the family became undeniable. But as the days turned into weeks, the tension reached its breaking point, pushing both Michael and Amanda to the brink. A final confrontation. One evening, Michael came home from work to find Amanda sitting at the dining table, a stack of papers in front of her. What's this? Michael asked, his tone wary. Divorce papers, Amanda said quietly. Michael froze. Despite everything, the sight of the papers felt like a blow to the chest. I can't do this anymore, Amanda continued, her voice trembling. I've tried to make things right, but you won't let me. You're punishing me, and it's destroying all of us. Michael's eyes narrowed. You think you're the victim here? After what you did to me? I'm not the only one who's made mistakes, Michael, Amanda said, her voice rising. You've turned this into a vendetta, and it's tearing our family apart. Their argument escalated, voices echoing through the house. Ella and Max appeared at the top of the stairs, their faces pale. Stop it, Ella shouted, her voice trembling with tears. Please, just stop. Michael and Amanda fell silent, their anger replaced by a crushing sense of shame. The family falls apart. The divorce process was brutal. Michael and Amanda fought over custody of Ella and Max, each accusing the other of being an unfit parent. In the end, the court awarded joint custody, forcing them to continue interacting despite their animosity. The arrangement was fraught with tension, and the children were caught in the middle, their confusion and sadness growing with each passing day. Michael's downward spiral. After the divorce was finalized, Michael's anger didn't dissipate. It consumed him. He began drinking heavily, using alcohol to numb the pain of his broken family. One night, Marcus found Michael sitting alone at a bar, a half-empty bottle of whiskey in front of him. You need to pull yourself together, man, Marcus said, sitting beside him. What's the point? Michael slurred. Everything's gone. My marriage, my family, it's all gone. You still have Ella and Max, Marcus reminded him. They need you. But Michael shook his head, his eyes filled with despair. I've already failed them. Amanda's struggles. Amanda, too, struggled to move on. The weight of her guilt and the collapse of her marriage left her in a constant state of despair. Though she managed to secure a low-paying job at a local cafe, it was a far cry from the career she had once envisioned. Her relationship with Ella and Max also suffered. The children, resentful of the pain their parents' divorce had caused, began pulling away from her. One afternoon, as Amanda picked up Ella from school, Ella refused to look at her. Do you hate me? Amanda asked softly. Ella's silence was answer enough. The final collapse came during a co-parenting meeting at Ella and Max's school. The principal had called Michael and Amanda in to discuss the children's declining grades and troubling behavior. "They're clearly struggling," the principal said. "It's important that you two work together to create a stable environment for them." Michael and Amanda exchanged a tense glance, but said nothing. After the meeting, as they stood in the parking lot, Michael turned to Amanda. "This is all your fault," he said bitterly. Amanda's face crumpled. "You think I don't know that? You think I don't hate myself every single day for what I did?" "Good," Michael said coldly. "You should." Amanda's tears fell freely, but Michael walked away, leaving her alone in the fading light. Ella and Max drift away. Over time, the damage to Ella and Max became irreversible. They withdrew from both parents, seeking solace in friends and activities that kept them away from home. One evening, Ella packed a small bag and announced that she was staying with a friend for the weekend. "When will you be back?" Amanda asked, her voice trembling. "I don't know," Ella replied, her tone cold. Amanda watched her daughter leave, her heart breaking. Years later, Michael and Amanda lived separate lives, both marked by regret and loneliness. Michael's drinking had cost him his job, and he spent his days in a small, dimly lit apartment, surrounded by reminders of the family he had lost. Amanda, now working 2 jobs to make ends meet, lived in a modest apartment, her once bright spirit dimmed by years of guilt and hardship. Neither had found happiness, and the wounds of their marriage remained raw. A life in ruins. Years after the explosive unraveling of their marriage, Michael and Amanda Carter lived as shadows of their former selves. The promises of a happy family and a bright future had crumbled, leaving only regret and solitude in their wake. Their lives were hollow, defined not by hope or progress, but by the wreckage of what once was. Michael had fallen into a pattern of self-destruction. His days were spent in a haze of alcohol, his nights plagued by memories of a life he could never reclaim. The small apartment he now called home was a far cry from the house where he had once tucked Ella and Max into bed. He rarely saw his children. They had grown distant, their lives moving forward without him. When he tried to call Ella, her responses were brief and curt. Max, now a teenager, barely acknowledged him during their rare visits. One night, Marcus visited Michael unannounced, finding him slumped on the couch, an empty bottle at his feet. "This isn't living, Michael," Marcus said, his voice firm but compassionate. Michael stared at the floor. "I don't know how to live anymore, Marcus. I lost everything that mattered." "You still have time to fix things with your kids," Marcus said, "but you need to start by fixing yourself." Michael's laugh was hollow. "I don't even know where to start." Amanda, too, was trapped in a cycle of regret. Her modest apartment was filled with reminders of her mistakes. The divorce papers she couldn't bring herself to throw away, the photographs of Ella and Max from happier times, and the rejection letters from companies she had once dreamed of working for. She had tried to rebuild her relationship with Ella and Max, but the damage ran deep. "Mom, I don't hate you," Ella said during a rare dinner together. "But I can't forget what happened. It changed everything." Amanda's chest tightened. "I know I hurt you and Max. I wish I could go back and undo it all." Ella shook her head. "You can't. We just have to live with it." Ella and Max had grown into resilient young adults, shaped by the chaos of their childhood. Ella, now in college, rarely came home, preferring the stability of her new life away from the fractured family she had left behind. Max, still in high school, focused on sports and academics, pouring his energy into pursuits that kept him out of the house. Though they cared for their parents, they had learned to set boundaries, unwilling to be pulled back into the emotional turmoil of their past. A chance encounter. One rainy afternoon, Michael and Amanda crossed paths for the first time in years. It was at a grocery store, the last place either of them expected to see each other. Amanda froze when she saw Michael, his once strong frame now thin and worn. Michael, too, was struck by how tired and defeated Amanda looked. "Michael," Amanda said softly, her voice filled with a mix of surprise and sadness. "Amanda," he replied, his tone neutral. They stood in awkward silence before Amanda spoke again. "How are you?" Michael shrugged. "Surviving, I guess. You?" "Same," Amanda said. They exchanged a few more polite words before parting ways, the encounter leaving them both with a heavy sense of what could have been. An empty legacy. As the years passed, Michael and Amanda drifted further into obscurity. Michael eventually sought help for his drinking, but the damage to his relationships was irreparable. Amanda continued working low-paying jobs, her career ambitions long abandoned. Their interactions with Ella and Max remained strained, their family bond fractured beyond repair. On quiet nights, both Michael and Amanda were haunted by the choices that had led them to this point. They had destroyed each other in their pursuit of revenge and redemption, leaving nothing but a hollow legacy for their children. Thanks to your subscription, my content will be improved and become better. Share your thoughts.